Okay, now we're moving on to your dad. Frederico, will you also write down your earliest memory of your dad? And then we'll move on to Uncle Andy. What's your earliest memory?
When I was, probably 7 or 8, I don't know, it might have been a little older, but he needed this railroad tie cut, okay, and so when he said, "Well, get up here and do it," so I was really happy and proud that he asked me to do it. But man, that thing was so hard and so tough. I had a regular just old handsaw, and I had to cut that the railroad tie. And I got it cut, but he took a look at it when I finished. He said, "God damn it, you said it." He didn't say "God damn it." He said, "You
whistle dick."
Yeah.
So, Uncle Tom, what's your earliest memory of your dad?
Well, my earliest memory, I guess one that stuck out to me is back when I was a jock, and stuff. I used to run track and everything. I remember what happened is I got hit in the head with a shot put, and I was taken to the hospital. And I remember every day, I would come and go, but every day my dad would be standing there just looking over me. He looked so weak and so defeated, and he was up there every day. He wouldn't say much. He would just come and just stand there, and I remember that. And, and I regretted the fact that he passed before I had a chance to tell him how much I appreciated that. And, after that, after I got out of the hospital and stuff, then he actually came to a track meet, and he didn't, have time for that kind of junk. But I remember that. And I never had a chance to thank him and let him know how much I appreciated him. And that just kind of tore me up.
Mom, what about you? What's the earliest memory you have?
Oh, yes. Okay. My earliest memory, I was in grade school and trying to sell Girl Scout cookies. And I remember I waited on 3rd Street for my dad to get off the train. Boxes are so heavy. Can you carry them home? And he did. I mean, I carried him that far to 3rd Street, but, I just put in the helpless female. But he did carry him home without even asking, questioning him, whatever.
Yeah. And one of my earliest memories was when he took me to the voting, to City Hall to go vote. And his favorite saying was, "It's important that you vote." That's how he said it was. I know the thought of it was, it was important that you vote because people died for your right to do that. I remember that.
So, Uncle Jerry, how about you?
My favorite memory was that my father also took me over to City Hall while he voted and said the same thing. You need to vote because people have died so that you could. But the other memory I have from my dad was I was complaining to him about Zelma Ivankovich. Anyway, she had a little strip of sidewalk to shovel in front of her house, but then she had us shovel the 2 walks all the way back to the alley and then shovel the alley, right? And she only paid us 35 cents. Whereas the Lions, with their sidewalk, it didn't equal the amount of area that she had us clean, and they always paid us $3. So I complained to my dad one day about Mrs. Vankovich only paid me 35 cents to do all this work for her. And my father responded with, "What you need to remember, as long as they pay you, all you need to do is say thank you." And I thought to myself, well, I ain't going to clean her sidewalk anymore. But, the thing is that was the thing, that if you get paid, you just need to say thank you and move on, okay?
So, how would you describe your dad's personality?
He was everywhere, wherever he went, whatever he
went and wherever he did, he was the boss.
Right? They honored him.
They honored
for
him.
founding the first union at the smelter.
Founding the first union at the smelter.
Another thing about my father, one of the memories was I was very young and we were going over to the bus stop to meet him as he got off work. That was one of the proudest days of my life. I was probably 4 or 5 years old. The other thing about Fred Jackson was he didn't play. And I remember him saying to me, "Your Uncle Ed's a dope addict, so you don't be hanging around him." And, I was like 7, 8 years old. I don't know what a dope addict is, right? All I knew is I didn't want to be one. Daddy, boy, he spoke his truth. He was a man of few words. One of the other memories I have is our oldest brother, Andy, thought he was a good boxer. He called his father out, and his father said, "Give me your best." And Andy did bam. And then Daddy did bam and laid him out. And me and Johnny and Tom looked at each other and said, "I guess we don't have to do that."
Can you tell me about your dad's career and how it influenced your family?
We all went to work on the Hill except for Johnny, because Johnny graduated when he was 17 and went right to Michigan. And Andy put him to work at Jack Tarbox because he wasn't old enough to work at Oldsmobile.
Anyone else? About how his
Yes.
job helped shape you guys?
Was the only thing that, that I really remember about him. Whenever we were there, even after he got sick and couldn't do it anymore, and we would go over there, we'd try to duplicate what he did. That was it. And we knew if once we did that, then we had it done. And they would send a check to Mother all the time. Every payday, she got a check from the Anaconda Company.
But what he would do too, when we go up the road to Smith, he'd cash his check. I don't know how much money he would take, but he'd give it all to Mom. And she would do the finances of the house.
Yep, she sure did.
Did your dad have any hobbies or interests?
He liked to play pinochle. Excuse me.
Yeah, he loved pinochle.
Pinochle and
He loved
solitaire.
pinochle.
You
Huh?
realize, later on in years in life, when I started at the fire department, and we used to play the pinochle. They couldn't believe I knew how to play that young.
You don't think your dad knew how to read?
It's hard to know, but see, here's the thing. He had to be able to read something to vote, because you had to.
Somebody said he did that, I don't know, there's some reason he had, but he just liked to hear a voice, I guess, or something. I don't know.
So, what else do you or have you heard about his kind of childhood and upbringing? Because he left when he was really young.
Yeah, but not much. See, and all this we found out later on. But he left home and he came to. He was up in. He dropped down. He worked his way across Canada and dropped down somewhere. I forget exactly
Harvard,
where.
Montana.
Stafford, I think it was. Wasn't it
Harvard,
Stafford?
Montana.
And heard there was work in Anaconda. So that's when he came to the smelter and went to work.
Can you recall any significant challenges your dad faced?
I think that I don't have a lot of the information, but I know that when he moved into 414, they had a petition to get him moved out, and he hired Maffei to defend him so we could stay at 414. So that was definitely a challenge because we were the only black family on the north side of the tracks.
west side of
Everybody
the
else
track,
was
yeah.
over on, all the other black people were over across the tracks. But I
Didn't I hear
do,
something about how they showed up at the door and he had a shotgun?
no, I don't know
No.
anything about that.
Okay. So they just started a petition, but nothing happened.
Well, he had to get a lawyer to be able to stay there. Okay. I
Okay.
don't know all the information, but if I find more, I'll get it to you.
What kind of music or songs did your dad like? Any specific artist?
Boogie woogie. I don't think he was much into music.
I don't ever recall him listening to any music.
I don't think he did either. Mother did, but I don't think Daddy did.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
think
he
he did
didn't
either.
have to. He had them girls playing that piano and singing them songs for him.
So, final question. Any particular moment with your dad that you cherish the most?
I mentioned it earlier, but it's just the fact of going over there to where the people voted at. We had a little bit on on CBS News with Walter Cronkite. They had a little bit about the riots and stuff like that, but they never had a lot. But and then when he explained to me about that I needed to vote because people died for that, that kind of even got more and more together, but that was all I knew. That was a limited amount. So that's the only thing I had. That's what I remember most of all.
But like I said, I told earlier about the memory when I was hitting him with a shot put. He came up to the hospital every day and he would just stand there, and I would come and go. I was in and out, but I remember seeing him there, And remember he wore the same old suit. It had a stain on the pants. I remember that. And he would come up there and that's the first time I ever saw him look weak. He looked so weak and defeated and he wouldn't say much, And I remember that he would just stand there.
The memory I have is my older brothers dragged me down to Chestnut Street to play football in the street. This white guy they called Old Man Mud, I don't really know what his name was, came and ran them out of the street. And they went home and got my father, and my father went down to the street and was
But
calling.
wait a minute, Jerry, he called us darkies. Remember? He called us darkies.
He was the grandfather to the Sharkies.
Right, yeah. And he called us darkies. What are you darkies doing here?
Okay. Anyway, my dad went down there and was calling him out, right? And this is in the 1950s. Now, if we'd have probably been in any other state in the Union, it probably would have been cause for our whole family to be killed. Papa Fred didn't play. He was ready to knock that guy out, boy.
One memory I have of Daddy, it was when Thaddeus was born, and because he didn't know that we needed to wear the long socks, so I just wore the little short anklets, almost froze to death. And then I remember that Christmas, I wanted a doll, and he said, well, we have a baby. I said, no, I don't want that baby. And so he took and got me a doll.